Welcome to the Free Cheese, episode 453. I'm your Joe Dix, joined by Mark Augustiniak.
What's up?
Matt Sellner.
Hello.
The Free Cheese is a weekly video game podcast about video games, brought to you once a week by thefreecheese.com. Season 10, episode 18. We're talking Perfect Dark, the rare developed and published Nintendo 64 game. As our Season 10 continues, and we work our way through 45 games of our choosing, rank them, talk about them, etc. We're also, at some point this week, gonna give you a couple of recommendations that maybe you should check out before you can't use your credit card on the 3DS or Wii U any longer. But before all that, what was your earliest memory of reading a video game magazine?
Nintendo Power, probably.
Is there an issue or a moment that stands out in particular?
I don't know if I would look through them when I would go to like my local grocery store, or Blockbuster might have some or whatever. It's like that and like Tips and Tricks. They were kind of simultaneous with me. So I would glare at them, but I didn't start like subscribing to Nintendo Power until like a little late in the Nintendo 64's life cycle.
Yeah, that's where I was too.
So it was like right about when like the Game Boy Advance was about to come out. It was like from that point on I was subscribing, and then I think I stopped somewhere around the Wii, maybe a little like before it, but yeah, for some reason that first issue of like revealing the Game Boy Advance is the one that's sticking out to me the most at the moment.
Is it the one with the big sideways silver?
It's like the clear
GBA?
Purple, I think.
Yeah, sorry.
Maybe it is that.
I feel like
or white. I don't know. But yeah.
I've got one of them, but it's like maybe it's the Glacier?
Yeah. And like that's sticking out to me. I know there was one issue about the GameCube that was sticking. Oh, there it is. There we found it. Earliest memory, Nintendo Power, Mega Man 64, aka Mega Man Legends. I don't know if that was on the cover, but that was a highlight for me, and I would draw pictures out of it. I would draw the Mega Man pictures or whatever. So I usually got them for art purposes. I love looking at all that stuff.
There was a lot of that, man. Like a lot of people did really cool things with art submissions to those old game magazines. A lost art, literally. Yeah, the envelope stuff. Matt, how about you? Earliest or some key moment of a video game magazine?
EGM was the one that had the walkthroughs at the end of it, right? Or like a section for like a walkthrough of a game.
So
all right. So EGM was the one I was subscribed to for a bit. I don't remember any kind of section per se that stood out besides these walkthroughs, and I use these walkthroughs to kind of judge what games they get. I remember being obsessed with looking at the walkthrough for the demo of Metal Gear Solid 2.
Yeah.
And I remember like there was a section in Majora's Mask for The Legend of Zelda. And then there was one for, this is the one I hate the most. There was a thing for The Simpsons Wrestling, a walkthrough for one of the matches or something, and it looked cool, and I was like, oh man, let me buy The Simpsons Wrestling. So I bought that, and that was like probably one of the worst purchases I've ever made. So, or my mom made, I guess I should say.
Yeah. Do you think that it's better now that we can look up videos of gameplay?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
You had to consider it, though.
Well, there's it depends. I don't know. I think actually like the mix works, right? Like you can get it from a content creator who's getting paid or not getting paid. At least they have to kind of say they're getting paid for it. Have to. Or getting it right from the publisher, because the publisher can skew it, do that vertical slice, but if you get it from like a Twitch streamer, it comes with all that crap potentially, depending on who you watch or whatever. But I feel like the mix is good. But like I just know that when you watch when you usually watch something from a content creator, they're going to give their opinion, and then you have the millions, or not millions, but like the thousands of people that are like, oh, well, he just said it's bad despite him saying why and how it's like bad for this specific reason or whatever, and they're like, oh, 1 out of 10 is bad, and it just skews the thoughts on a game.
Yeah, like with me, the video format I think works to just show off the game and let the game speak for itself. But in magazine stuff, when you just get like screen grabs and a couple blurbs here and there, you might get some details that will only be pointed out in those dedicated magazines, and no one else might not point out those little details. I mean, they might be crucial or anything, right? But it's cool little tidbits to just know and kind of gives more context to it all.
I do miss magazines for the way that you could build hype around something, because not unlike, when we're in this era, I know like this doesn't really happen anymore, but like the pre-E3, like right now, where we're just kind of like hearing tidbits of rumors or things like that, and it's like, ooh, what could this be, or what might that be? I feel like we had that with, the screenshots or the little like rumblings of like, we hear there's a video game from Japan coming. And like, you're like, ooh, wow, what is it going to be? Like those little things where your mind just kind of fills in the blanks. I remember Tips and Tricks having the, I'm never going to remember what they were called, but they were like little pixel puzzle.
That is my favorite part.
Yes.
Yeah, I forgot the name of it too. But yeah, you're just essentially just coloring a whole like picture of like a sprite or something.
Yeah, like they kind of like scattered all of the things around you were kind of like filling in a grid based on, yeah, man, super good. Super good.
I think they had crosswords too.
That sounds right. And then of course they had the mega, sweepstakes you could enter to win every console ever with 1,000 TVs and a stereo sound system and a cruise to
Alienware.
Meet Bono. Yeah. But those are of an era long forgotten, unfortunately. Not unlike Rare Limited's Perfect Dark, which first released May 22nd, 2000. So at this point, we are like 18 months from the GameCube. I don't think we know that Dolphin exists, but the PlayStation is out in Japan. PlayStation 2, rather, is out in Japan and coming to North America in 6 months. So, like, we're at the tail end of the N64's life cycle, but we're still getting some kind of big games. Big enough that this was one of the few games that really kind of wholly required the expansion RAM cartridge, or Expansion Pak, as Nintendo called it. Without the expansion pack, this is from the back of the box, you were able to do multiplayer challenges and 1 to 2 player multiplayer. And you could have up to 8 simulants. But with the pack, you were able to do the actual solo campaign,
Jesus.
1 to 4 multiplayer, 1 to 2 player cooperative, and 2 player counter-operative modes. Straight from the back of the box, step into the dark. As Carrington Institute's most promising new agent, Joanna Dark must uncover the truth behind the Datadyne Corporation's recent technological breakthroughs which could have serious consequences for mankind. Over 40 advanced weapons, shoot through walls, guide rockets by remote, and cloak yourself to slip by unnoticed. Highly intelligent simulants command computer-controlled teammates to attack, follow, protect, and more. Innovative counter-op mode. Play as Joanna while a friend takes control of various enemies. More on that later. We're going to talk a lot about those things. Because that's for later. Let me not get ahead of myself here. This was, of course, developed by Rare, who also had made the ever-popular GoldenEye 007, and subsequently would release Perfect Dark Zero on the Xbox 360, which to date is the most recent release, excluding the re-release of Perfect Dark for the Xbox 360. Currently, a new game is in development by
Someone.
The Initiative, yeah, and maybe Crystal Dynamics.
Yeah.
We'll see. Was that Game Awards last year, or was that E3 last year?
E3.
Last year? I felt like it was.
I think it was E3.
I felt like it was so long ago.
I know. So maybe we're weeks away from seeing that here shortly. We are 1 week out from the 22nd anniversary, so congrats to that. Let's jump into it. So, GoldenEye. You guys played GoldenEye?
Correct. C.
Yes.
I read from hand.
Perfect Dark.
No.
We're talking like originally when it came out.
Yeah.
Barely. I watched it more than played it.
This was like GoldenEye was the one, right? Like everybody played GoldenEye, and you just spend hours and hours and hours in GoldenEye. But when this one came out, it felt like this went even further. I think a lot of what we did at the time, my brother and I, was the local multiplayer. Well, there was no online, but yeah, the multiplayer with the combat simulants, like just having computer players and us and sometimes a friend just throwing. There's so many customization options for the multiplayer matches. Like you can choose so many different sim types, so you can have easy, basically just a body on the screen. You can have really, really complicated, difficult enemies. You can have ones that move fast, ones that are always using their fists, ones that just... There's one that just has a capability to shoot rockets from itself without actually having a rocket launcher equipped. That would be called the Rocket Sim. They also kind of brought back some of the old 007 maps and weapons, but you could really customize the weapon options in every play style. It was just a sandbox, and I remember having so much fun. We would just crank up the score limit to unlimited or to like 100 or something and just play for hours. And I remember the really neat thing was you would complete a match and you had a couple of different like stats that were always being tracked. So you had your ranking as I don't know. I don't even know what but it was like from level 20 up to 1.
Like a profile ranking.
Yeah. And how you performed and whatever added scores to trick that up. You were always being awarded something, whether it was like most kills or least deaths, and down to weird stuff where like, what was the one you kept getting, Matt?
Most dishonorable when I was killing unarmed people.
Yeah, stuff like that. Most explosive if you were the one that was using the most blow up things on the map. And then you could go back and view all of those stats, and you could see exactly how many games you'd completed under your profile and how many kills you'd gotten, life to date, and like all of those little things that I think made that game just a weird, fun toy to play around with for a while. And then, of course, there's the single-player campaign, which maybe that's where we dive into, and we'll come back around to the multiplayer, but so revisiting it this time, I think all of us played through the 360 remake, simply because it's the most accessible. And that original game does not run so hot. Also, I have no idea where my expansion pack is. It's just gone. So I need to buy another one before I can actually play the campaign on original hardware. I still have the cart, but not the pack. So the single-player campaign, can anybody tell me what the story is?
Data dying.
I know that Joanna is like the best agent ever, hence the name Perfect Dark. So she's sent to, what was it? I want to say save the president.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Something very cliche.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. I really like. I played through this when I was younger, and played through this time around for us recording here, and like I don't really quite remember. There's a lot that are buried in like the menus when you're looking at your objectives, like little tidbits about the world and whatever. But yeah, generally she's a spy and I guess investigating things. I think that's the part that stands out to me for the campaign. I think the campaign, they did the same thing that GoldenEye does, where if you're familiar with GoldenEye and you haven't played this, but you have different difficulties you can choose. And difficulty is not just how hard is it to make it through a stage and get shot at, like what damage are you taking, but it also dictates what you have to do to complete a mission. So in most of the agent, which is like the normal standard difficulty, you have 3 objectives, and usually the third one is the one that just kind of ends the mission. So it's really just 2 things you have to do to get to the third part and move the story along. But as you go up, in special agent and perfect agent, and I think there's a 4th difficulty, I forget the name of it, you get more and more complicated things you have to do, and requirements. And I'll say it's so cool. Like, I love that approach to it. I love that there's that, because not many games do that, I don't think. Like, most times difficulty is just, it's relegated to how much damage do you take and how much damage do you put out.
Right.
And then, yeah, like that's basically it. But like having different objectives, I really like that approach to this, where it's like you can kind of do things, differently depending on what. And I do find that like the higher the difficulty, the more you feel like you are a secret agent. Like there's certain things that playing through agent you don't get to see or do, where Joanna gets to employ like weird tech. There's some of it, a little bit. Like there's one of the stages early on where you have the cam spy and you have to take a picture of the radioactive isotope thing. Like there's a lot of that stuff in special agent where like you need to use these one-off tools to like hack into something, or that stuff I think is really neat. But I do think that where this game fails is it's a little obtuse to navigate through some of these missions. There's missions that I like found my way through, but it was because of just like muscle memory. And there are others where I just straight up missed an objective that was pretty, in hindsight, straightforward, but like I'd made it to the end of the level and didn't know. Like that, actually, the radioactive isotope thing. I knew in that level I needed to go take a picture of that thing. Could not find it for the life of me. Like I thought I'd searched every door, and I started the level back from the beginning and just went left one point and found my way back. What did you guys think, like campaign-wise, of, I guess, difficulty and approach and what it was trying to do? Matt?
I mean, I was playing on the lowest difficulty. This is because this is really my first time ever playing Perfect Dark, or probably even being exposed to it, because I didn't even know I guess we still don't know what the story is, but I didn't even know like what this game was about or whatever. So I started on that and I was playing through it, and it's of an era, right? Like I think that open level design was probably I'm trying to think of other games around that time, like probably like so revolutionary and cool that it wasn't just like from point A to point B. There was a little bit of backtracking involved, or a little bit of exploration. Like there's an early level, and I could tell like there was another objective, because I kept finding myself in this room with NPCs or enemies that just weren't activating. So I have a feeling like that was probably an objective for the next level up or whatever. So like it's kind of cool that that's there, but like you kind of said, it's obtuse a little bit. It's kind of exploration. There's like no any of that modern stuff, like always having a compass, always kind of having like a marker, whether it's on the compass or like kind of like you can see it through walls with a meter, like how many meters are you away. Like all that is gone. It doesn't really tell you like how to do something like the objective, like you just said it, like the isotope. Like I went in that room and died. I found it, all right, but I went in there and died, not realizing I even had an item to do something. It didn't pop up until I was dying, and I was like, oh, all right, that's okay. So had to restart the level over, and then I realized like, oh, I can use this. Like the other part of it is like there are things like key codes the key code readers for doors and stuff. Like, I kept destroying one because I thought, like, oh, maybe, I don't know, I can shoot it, maybe. And then it was just like, mission failed. It's like, all right, well, why even let me fucking destroy this, right? Like, so I don't know. A little bit of the obtuseness, but I don't think it's a bad thing for the game at the time. I did just think, and playing this in the year 2022 when there's all these things out there to try and play and all these different first-person shooters that between bad and very good, since then all the way to now. And, like, I think I told Joe this earlier in the week, but it was just like, like playing this, like, it's cool to revisit it. It makes me appreciate like the time and stuff a little bit more in the retrospect. But like playing this and kind of getting stuck in a level, I'd rather just go and try something that's a little bit newer that probably has some of that quality of life stuff in a game that I probably know is bad. But I'd rather try another game than kind of keep going with this one. I think I used EA Syndicate as my example, but like, yeah, again, I'm sure at that time, again, struggling to think of other games that were first-person shooters at all, even. Like, at that time, it's revolutionary. The open concept is cool, but in 2022, it doesn't work.
Did you feel the same way going through it, Mark?
So, I have a history with this game, like... I was scorned when this first came out because my 64 was hogged on like my birthday and all my friends were playing Perfect Dark until sunrise. And so I never touched my 64. So I didn't want to play this a lot back then. And then jumping into it now, like you said earlier, like I had to switch to the 360 version because 64 was just getting a little too rough to handle, control-wise. Like, just shooters are just so different now. Especially like GoldenEye, I can't even play anymore. As much as fond of memories that everyone has with that.
It's rough.
It's very hard to revisit any shooter on the 64.
Yeah.
Like aiming with the stick, like with the left stick, or moving with the C buttons, like it was just. It was switched.
I think auto aim in this case worked.
Yes, I appreciated that.
Strafe with the C buttons, which you can't really strafe in this. That's something I've like. You can, but not in that same traditional.
Yeah,
fashion.
And I like that if you held in the aim button with this one, you kind of like peek around corners or whatever. But yeah, like to echo Matt a little bit, it is impressive for what this game did in that time that it came out. Like, there weren't many fully voiced Nintendo 64 games. There weren't many that were this deep either, I feel, when it comes to, like, first-person, like, immersion, walking around and stuff. But,
yeah,
its downfall is visually a lot of that kind of blends in with the environment, and you can't really tell what is supposed to be important and what isn't. And and then like a lot of it is just through like trial and error of like trying to figure out what to do exactly and how not to do certain things. And that can be potentially frustrating depending on the player, depending on how many times you have to go through and you have to start the mission completely over. But I do like the objective. I do like the objectives as much as I don't care for some of or don't understand some of them. But I do like that they exist, because it's kind of a precursor to trophies and achievements. That's basically what that is, but it's just now a qualifier to get through the level. So yeah, that definitely adds some uniqueness to it. But I do like that world that Perfect Dark has created. I did like walking around and like exploring the levels and stuff. The combat was a little mindless, but I'm okay with that, because I kind of prefer that for this. The auto aim was such a blessing.
Yeah.
Weapon selecting is a little weird. I don't like I mean, you can just like manually hit the buttons and switch through one at a time, but the weapon wheel or whatever you call it, that could probably be done a little differently, in my opinion.
My memory of it is tough. I feel like it was a little.
It's just a web. And then you have to like...
Yeah, but I think it was easier on the 64 because you would kind of hold down something. I forget what button it was.
You had to hold like L
pull
or
the analog
something.
stick. But like this one, it's still the same thing. Like you're holding left bumper and then you move the analog stick. But I think that it's weird, like using the same stick for movement. It does feel a little strange, but it works.
What throws off the weapon wheel, because remember, like Doom has the weapon wheel as well, but the difference between this one, at least on 360, between Perfect Darks and Doom, is you have to hold the direction and then press an action button or a button of some kind. You just can't let it go and it selects. And I was like, my instincts kept trying to do that and it wouldn't.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's what threw me off on the weapon select a little bit. It made me feel just a tiny second slower.
Yeah.
It definitely, you have to like be deliberate with what you're choosing.
And I think I'm okay with the format that it has, right? I think it just needs to be altered slightly. Like, don't have the diagonals, because it's just like nothing is symmetrical with it. You have to go through other ones to get to the one you need, when I think it just should be just a straight cross type thing. Like something more symmetrical. But
the cool thing at the time was definitely the fact that you could have so many weapons, which I think GoldenEye had similar, right? But like so many different options and varieties throughout the...
Yeah, like the weapons are also really great. Like Perfect Dark does like have a lot of originality to it. And I like that it could take that GoldenEye foundation and evolve that into its own thing. And like all the weapons having like secondary fires, like even your like unarmed has a secondary fire, which is disarming other people.
Which I don't know of any other game where you can disarm someone and use their weapon, especially not in multiplayer. But that was super fun. Yeah. Always. And it gave you a competitive edge when you otherwise wouldn't have one, which I think is neat. Let's talk about weapons a little bit, because I think that is, of a first-person shooter, that's one of the most important parts. So,
definitely.
Obviously, I've got my favorites from the years, but I think something that's cool in this is they do bring back the GoldenEye weapons. They rename them, but you can use them in multiplayer, and I believe if you did the combat challenges inside of the, like, Carrington Institute, where you're like doing the target practice stuff, if you do all of them, you can unlock the GoldenEye weapons for campaign use. I might be misremembering or getting something incorrect there, but generally, like I do, like every weapon feels like it's part of this world that they've built, and I think they've done like, I don't know, interesting things with different weapon types. The key, though, is exactly what Mark pointed out, the secondary function. So every weapon, you can hold down a button to swap it between its primary firing and its secondary. And they vary. Like, there's the dragon is not a secondary fire at all. It just turns the gun into a proximity mine that you can throw and have it hit somebody. I think the tranquilizer is really cool, where its primary functionality is a sedative, but its secondary is a lethal injection. You have to be very intentional with lethal injection, but if you do it right, it's good. There's a couple more that I know I didn't hit in the campaign this time around, but I loved from back then. But what were some of your guys' favorite weapons in this, Mark?
I think because of GoldenEye, I love that classic pistol, that CM
something, I think, or CC
like 113 or something like that, or 133, I forget. But that silver pistol is just a good classic. But I'm usually a sucker for like explosives. Love a good rocket launcher. Love some good mines. Yeah.
Did you get the Super Dragon, where the secondary function's the grenade launcher?
No.
That one's good because you've got like a really nice, powerful assault rifle. Then you turn it on its side, and you're just like chugging grenades out.
So I remember watching people use that, but I've never used it myself. That sounds like a fun time though. But I'm pretty simple with that stuff. I thought I would like the shotgun more. It's fine. The alternate fire is pretty cool. It's just a reload time gets you. And I'm also a sucker for magnums. I love a good magnum.
Yeah, it's got a good Matt, any standout weapons?
The Cyclone, just for his reload animation, that feeding like this data stick through, and like it doesn't stay in; it just feeds it through. Like the Cyclone needs data to shoot. It's like fucking amazing.
It's such a cool. Yeah.
No. I just wanted to bring up the shotgun's the perfect. It was the example I was going to bring up. Like the secondary function made that weapon useful in multiplayer. I'm sure, actually, I think I was using the shotgun a little bit in the campaign. Like, it works, but in multiplayer, that double blast just made it viable. It just having any of that stuff, like a useless weapon, that secondary weapon, whether it's niche or not, I don't know, but it kind of made something that might not be useful in a situation useful. The mines are dumb. I mean, the mines were in GoldenEye, but just the animation of just it's a mine. I'm just it's the thought process behind this. It's a mine. You're probably supposed to place it down with delicacy and make sure it's armed and ready, and you're not accidentally setting it off. No, in this game we're just chucking them like frisbees all over the map. Yep. And some of the throws, like especially with the combat knife, when you start throwing like the poison knife, like you're aiming. And it goes wide left. Like, I don't know if Joanna did not have time to practice throwing knives or whatever, but like some of the animations for the knife was ridiculous. But yeah, I mean, like the classic weapons are cool and all, but in a game like this, it's the stuff that you can't get anywhere else. Like, yeah, like the K7 Avenger, yes, it's a great weapon, but I can find its equivalent in a Call of Duty. Same thing with like the pistols, the Magnum. True. And all. Like, yeah, sure, like they're cooler here probably than like especially the handguns than in a Call of Duty. But like I kind of I could play that style if I wanted to. But like something like the proximity mines and chucking them like frisbees is great. The trank gun, I guess there are, but like the lethal injection secondary. And also, shout out to the disarm, because there are many fond moments of that in our short time with multiplayer, where like I'm chasing you, Joe, and I'm just trying to sneak around and get a wall advantage to kind of poke around into this army and use your own weapon against yourself. Like that is awesome. Something I think you said, I don't know another game that does something like that.
This is also like one of the first games to include like pistol whipping.
Yeah, as a function, like just.
I mean, now it's just every shooter now you just like click and right stick or something. Everything has a melee function to it or something, right? But like that was something you had to manually set and use. Deliberate.
A couple of the weapons that happen later on in the campaign, and I know we didn't see them. I wish I'd unlocked them for us to play in multiplayer, but I'd say like 4 of the ones we didn't get to mess around with that were super pivotal back in the day. There's the Farsight XR420. I might have the number wrong on that. XR570. That's what it is.
Should be 420.
I know, they should have. But the Farsight, it's Mayan technology, the alien. It's this big, long, blue, weird-looking rifle thing. And it has X-ray functionality and, the ability to shoot through walls. So, again, multiplayer, you would just... and in Perfect Dark, the facility map from GoldenEye was brought into Perfect Dark, and in this you can actually climb up into the vent from the bathroom. Nice. It's not just a matter like you do spawn there, but you can also like work your way up it, and that was always the spot, man. You'd spawn, you'd get a Farsight, you'd hide in the corner there, and then you just sit and X-ray through the walls because it's total map distance. So like you can X-ray through the walls, and it like kind of like auto zooms and locks onto one of your enemies. That was super fun. There's one called the Phoenix that has kind of like a just regular laser gun feel to it, but its secondary function is these explosive shells that shoot out, and it just feels very alien. Like it's real, like it's like a pod gun kind of weird thing.
Nice.
There's the Reaper, which is my I know I talk about it all the time. This one's I feel like even random podcasts we've done through the years where we've talked about good weapons, this one always stands out to me. But you hold it two-handed. It's two handles. It looks like you're using some sort of lawn tool, but it has blades on the front of it. You hold the trigger, the blades spin and fire green bullets, and its secondary function is just a blade that you just grind people with.
It looks like you're manning a turret. It's got you're holding handles on both sides, and the way at least it's pictured here, it's centered, which usually on a first person shooter you're angled right or left unless you're playing Doom. And then, on a turret, you're actually kind of centered, and that's what this kind of has.
And we would always, I remember, playing around with this when we would turn it on to grinder only. Or not grind, but, we would just put the Reaper on, and we would, I remember a lot of Perfect Dark, us making our own rules and sticking to them while we played, and, kind of making up our own games and our own little, sub-stories while we were playing around, local multiplayer, and, just so much fun, so stupid. Just little, I don't know, letting your imagination run wild. And then, of course, the laptop gun, which is probably the thing that when they announced a new Perfect Dark, coming to Xbox Series X and PC and whatever else, that is the thing I'm most excited about in a new Perfect Dark is what are they going to do with the laptop gun? The laptop gun, it's a really solid rifle, kind of automatic rifle on its own, but its secondary function is to deploy it as a sentry gun. And man, multiplayer alone was super fun where we would team up against as many simulation or computer players as we could, and then we would just throw, because I think each of you can deploy, I might be wrong that you can deploy 2 each, but you can at least each deploy 1 laptop gun, and we would just sit there and fill the elevator with these laptop guns, get in the elevator, go up, and all of the sims would be locked on us trying to get into the elevator. The doors would open and just mow them all. It's so stupid. The game would just chug and stutter for an hour. But yeah, I think that's another one that I just super stoked to see what they do with it. Yeah, coming back to the campaign, I forgot how weird and far it goes where and you can see it a little bit if you play even just the multiplayer and scroll through some of the available outfits for Joanna, but she's got an outfit change every level because she's all over the place. Sometimes you're sneaking into a facility, sometimes you're on the streets of Chicago, sometimes you're in you go to Area 52 where you break Elvis out of captivity, and Elvis is your traditional gray alien. He's got the spaceship, he's got all of that stuff, but you end up teaming up with him and you chase down, there's a competing alien race that's invading, and by the way, all of this is happening in 2023, so get ready for next year, y'all.
Hover taxis, I'm ready.
Well, we survived Judgment Day, so I'm feeling pretty good about this one.
True, yeah. We'll see. But yeah, you play through, I think every stage feels, okay, I shouldn't say that. There's a lot of areas that do share a common DNA, so they do feel kind of samey. But when they change locales, when you change from, the villa to Chicago, it feels different. And the music, the sound design in this is so good. I don't know if you guys got to the Chicago stage, but the weird, it's this watery, sad sound that plays. I don't that has lasted with me for 22 years, alone. And when I went back to it, it just felt like being home again. Just this weird, dark, rainy city. This cool espionage vibe. And that stage in particular, that's the one where you need to hack the taxi to make it fly and crash.
Yeah. That's what you're supposed to do. Oh my god.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, obviously I never got past that level.
Well,
yeah, you hack the taxi, but you have the weird computer robot boy monster
it
thing
said
floating.
to create a diversion, so I kept seeing in my pickup a remote mine, so I kept throwing it on it, and I was like, all right, create a distraction, have the guards run to the car, get in the elevator. That never worked. I tried it twice.
And that's the weird, like, you can look at the mission objectives, and sometimes it'll tell you, like, I do think that one says...
It says, like, use a car as a distraction.
Yeah. And then I think, like, it's, like, the other part where it tells you what items you're equipped with. But again, it's very, like, obtuse and esoteric. Like, it's not straightforward what you're supposed to do.
Matt, I failed that level so many times, but not because of that.
Yeah.
It was because... So the third mission, like you were saying, isn't really like a mission or like objective, right? You just gotta complete it.
It's like a checkpoint you cross.
There's these doors that close if you don't get to it quick enough,
or
and you don't even
cards. Yeah.
You don't even go into the door to complete the objective. You just gotta walk in that area far enough, and I was always just like an inch away from completing it, so I had to restart the whole thing because I didn't walk that extra inch to get to that door. And I was like,
it's the worst.
Oh,
it's
okay.
The worst.
And then I made it to the level after that, and then like being able to set off an alarm to ruin yourself is where I stopped.
Yeah, I failed that level over and over again. Like, I was trying very hard to figure it out on my own, and I ended up having to look it up and just see, like, what am I supposed to do? And it's like, oh, right, you have to... I remembered that taxi being pivotal.
Yeah.
But
I like that map, though. Even though, like, it's small, I like that, like, there's a little sewer way, there's a little alleyway.
Yeah.
And I liked...
I was
gonna say, when I inevitably go to Chicago, that's what I expect it to look like, because I'm probably not getting out there in 2023, so...
From my understanding of it. No, but like even that, like the sewer, like having to go and get your gear from the sewer, like where they're like, oh, we've like it felt so espionage, spy, cool. Like, yeah, it really, really liked that level. I loved also where you do rescue Elvis. I think it's the stage after that, maybe, or two after that. I don't remember. You rescue him from the lab, and everything is so white and sterile, and bright lights, and all of the techs in there wearing the like
lab
technicians'
coats.
Costumes, and they all have tranq guns. They're shooting like it's just like I don't know, man. Everything was like so intentional and with a purpose. It's just such a cool.
Oh man, the lights. You just reminded me. Like the beginning of that game, for the 360 version or whatever. I wish there was a setting to turn off some of the lights because those like little white flares all over the floors in that building, so blinding. Even with the gamma on like the lowest setting, it was. Oh man, that was a rough time. But thankfully that was the only time.
Yeah.
I was gonna say briefly about sound design, the death animation, not the animations, but the death noises, the why me,
why
the one that does like that. Like. Shout out to that person. Like they're
so good.
They put their all in that.
Yeah, those will stick with me for a while. And I was just gonna say like overall, like this game, obviously it's the same developer, it's the successor to GoldenEye, but like my feelings are like I didn't realize until I played multiplayer, but like my experience of this game is exactly the same as GoldenEye's. Like, I never really played the campaign of GoldenEye because whenever I played it, I just never had fun. I was struggle, felt clumsy, or, whatever. It's like, but when I got in that multiplayer with my friends, like, that was it. That was a fun time, and my experience with Perfect Dark is the exact same. And I don't think that, I think the reasoning is out there, right? Same developer, sequel to GoldenEye and everything, but yeah, like that's kind of how I've fallen on this game, at least.
Do you feel like playing multiplayer helped your opinion of it?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we have fun playing it. I was like generally having fun playing it. I could see myself having fun back in the day with it as well, like I did with GoldenEye. Just like I never played Perfect Dark back then, but like I just know how I was with GoldenEye back then. I never really played the campaign because, as I just said, And it's like the exact same stuff here. It's like, oh, if you are jumping into Perfect Dark, sure, I would play. Am I going to go back to this campaign anytime soon? No. And I never did that with GoldenEye.
Well, that was my next question. So they're making a new Perfect Dark game.
Well, in the year 2022, that's the...
Yeah. At some point, they're going to make a new one will come out. As we get closer to that release date and we potentially see more and, the hype train begins, do you feel like you would revisit this campaign and or Perfect Dark Zero?
If I did not have to play... I say that that sounds bad when I say it, but if I did not have to play Perfect Dark for this episode, I probably would have gone back to it, but I'll check out Zero for a little bit. But honestly, they're probably approach it with a fresh start for everyone approach, and there's probably like anything I need to get story wise is probably going to be in like the opening cinematic, or there's going to be something in the settings or options menu that has a recap, much like Gears had.
Yeah. Mark, what about you?
I have yet to play Zero. I'm kind of curious just how it handles, just controls and everything, just to compare and contrast. I know with this new Perfect Dark, it's not going to capture whatever stands out about this one. It's just nearly impossible at this point. It's just, whole new team, whole new people, different times, everything. The gameplay might be a little more tolerable to some, but I don't know how that one's going to be. But I don't know. I probably wouldn't I don't know if I'd play through the entire campaign just to get ready for the new one. I feel like for some reason I'm getting like I wouldn't be surprised if it didn't have anything to do with the past games. Like just not many callbacks, if any. Like maybe some returning characters, but story-wise, there's just probably going to be no relation.
I think you're going to get some Easter eggs for the keen eye, and like I said, anything story related that you need is going to be knocked out in that first scene or two.
I have not completed Zero. I feel like several times in my Xbox ownership history, I have attempted to play through Zero. The furthest I have made it is a few levels in, and I can confirm the laptop gun is there and works, albeit differently. But honestly, I should revisit it just to be sure. I feel like that one plays worse than the original.
I was about to say, I never heard much about it, so I don't know if it's good or bad.
Because it was a 360 launch title.
Right.
And one that I think probably needed a little more time and a little more refinement. It was also, so that would have been 2005, and it's right in that sweet spot, in between, very serious growing pains for the first-person shooter genre, where, Halo had really figured out first-person shooters, and everybody else was either, trying to copy it wholly or trying to figure out their own way to do it, and I feel like they just kind of... I feel like aiming was weird in this one. I should revisit it before casting full judgment. But the other side of it, story-wise,
I was gonna say, it went through a development hell too. I think it switched developers at some point as well.
I think it was always Rare. I might be wrong. But the key is that it was GameCube, and then Microsoft buys Rare, so it switches to 360. Well, I think it was supposed to be Xbox.
There's something I can't remember what happened. There's something weird that happened though. It's out there.
Come back for season 11 when we do Perfect Dark Zero. Kidding. It's not on the list.
You don't know. We don't have any official list yet.
True. But yeah, if you want to put it on there,
I'm not.
But yeah, I don't know. I want to revisit that one, but it's a prequel. So Zero actually takes place in 2020. Ahead of the events of this game, so I think it's more sci-fi-esque. This one's very sci-fi-esque. I think it's less alien stuff than this one is. I don't know though. We'll see.
Is
Um,
is it still Joanna?
mhm.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean,
She's got red
I
hair
mean,
for some reason.
yeah, the hairstyle was just completely different. So I didn't know if it was the same character.
Yeah. One other quick note about Perfect Dark. Just want to note the box art. So our American version of the box art, it's this close-up half look at Joanna's face, and there's a mild reflection of Elvis in her eye, just the gray alien, peak. It works really well. I feel like it's effective, and it's like it sets a mood, it sets a tone. It's like, oh, this is, there's something, I don't know, like inviting about it and curious, I think.
Right.
The Japanese version of the box art, it's so bizarre. It's all red. It's you can kind of make out, I mean, you can tell it's a woman on the cover, but it's like just a silhouette of a woman on a cover with a bunch of guns in this apartment.
Wait, that's the box art?
That is the box art for the Japanese version. Isn't that wild?
I thought this was like a magazine ad.
So did I.
Oh.
No, that is the straight up box art, dude.
Yeah, that's a little wild.
Dude, that would totally make me pick up the game.
Yeah.
If that was if that was a movie poster, I would watch the movie. I don't even care what it's about. Like, that would get me to watch it.
I never realized Elvis was in the reflection of the eye. I don't think I've ever seen the cart or paid much attention to the box art. But that is such a cool way of saying, like, yo, first person shooter, you see what she sees.
Yeah, it's like
I remember the eye. I don't
subtleties in
remember the alien either. Probably because I didn't want to look
which
at
one?
it. I like our box art. Like, I remember the eye, of course, even on the cartridge more than anything. But I never knew about the alien being in the eye.
He blends
are
in, like, you almost
sure
don't even
that's
notice him.
Why am I seeing like Velvet Dark? Or unless that's a dumb thing. Oh, that's someone's Twitter. Okay, never mind.
Free plug from thefreecheese.com.
Yeah, I don't know what that is. Sorry. No, that's just yeah. But the thing is, it's so wildly to look at. I believed. I think a fake Twitter thing.
No, I looked a couple of times. Like, there's a PAL region that's totally different that has more of Joanna's face on it, and then there's the Japanese box art. It just super weird. Like, it seems like it shouldn't be the one.
It's like, yeah, Europe has a small tweak, but same kind of thing. Not as like close up, a little bit more lighter, and then there's Japan, just blood red, just
yeah.
Though,
I mean,
with that red art, I feel like I would feel misled in a way.
Oh, 100%.
Because that doesn't scream sci-fi shooter espionage. It's like feels more dramatic than that.
This is like a horror game.
That seems like the Japanese poster for like Leon the Professional or something. Like
this could even be a Parasite Eve cover.
Yeah.
Yes.
I was thinking Siren. Like, I don't know why Siren, but
yeah.
I mean, Siren's red and black. Yeah, that could work. I don't think that's a shooter.
What a time. It's wishful thinking, but I do hope that some agreement can be cut and they could get Perfect Dark on that Nintendo Switch service. But, that's...
Well, maybe. I mean, Xbox and Nintendo are close, so it's not like it can't happen.
Yeah. We'll see.
It's not like that other company
that
starts with a P and ends in Asian.
I mean, yeah, you got Donkey Kong Country games on there, so...
Yeah. We'll
Why
see.
not?
Quick side note. Is there a game, this for me, Perfect Dark's my answer, but is there a game that you could play indefinitely at its release? Like, is there something that you just got roped completely into? Another one I remember, if you needed a second to think, Red Faction was another multiplayer one where I remember just having fun with the physics of that game and just like, holy heck, you can break the walls. Like, all of that stuff was always really...
Oh, so we're talking like at the time of its release, you were just...
I just remember like spending days playing Perfect Dark and GoldenEye and Mario Kart 64 just in the block fort. Like all of those little things like that where you just kind of had fun playing video games. Where now it's like clocking in sometimes.
Funny enough, my game I think we've already talked about on this list. It was WWF No Mercy.
Yeah, right. But like just getting lost in it, turning off timers, and just rip.
I think. Halo was probably one, but I think my earliest memory is the original Mario Kart.
On Super Nintendo?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I would just play that nonstop. I would even try to recreate the tracks with my Legos.
Oh, I love that.
Bowser's Castle.
We should play that one. That's on Switch Online.
Yeah.
Another quick little segment just to check in here. We've got about a week until you will no longer be able to use your credit cards to natively purchase games on the 3DS and Wii U eShop. Now, you will have one full year still where you can add funds to your wallet via Nintendo.com and your Switch. And I believe you could still use eShop gift cards and you can make purchases. But, I'm sure we'll revisit this and have the same 5 answers then as we do now. But what games are something you would recommend people pick up before these stores die entirely?
I think this has to get broken down onto what kind of handheld you have.
Because if you Wii U also,
because if you have the 3D functionality, I would have different recommendations.
Yeah,
because some benefit from that. I'm not saying you essentially need it, but I think it's a nice little bonus just to check out. And I think any of the Sega ages, or
oh my gosh, yeah,
or like those classics or whatever, or like any of the 3D classics they put out on there, definitely worth with the 3D functionality. Like playing Super Hang On, playing Outrun, any of those games, it was pretty cool. Even Kirby and Kid Icarus, like playing the 3D classics of those.
I think those were cool. The 3D Ages stuff, the Sega ones, I really like Streets of Rage and Streets of Rage 2.
I haven't
the
tried
way
those
they did them, M2 did the layering with the 3D effect. You get this like weird diorama effect where like you feel like you're like peering into, like some of them like it just kind of like pops a little bit. Like that one, because of the way those stages are drawn, it just, oh man, it felt really, really immersive.
Yeah.
Those are good. That's a really good recommendation.
I guess if you have a 2DS, that's fine as well. Just another platform to play on.
They're great. I mean, they're classic Sega games, but I do think you're missing something by not having the 3D on those.
Yeah, like the 3D.
And there's 1,000 other ways to play those games,
right?
In 2D.
Yeah, and like the 3DS wasn't bad at 3D. Like some games probably didn't run it the greatest, but the way that with those games, I think it worked perfectly. And I guess for 2DS, my recommendations would be probably some other like virtual console stuff that maybe you can't get anywhere else, like maybe some classic Game Boy games or Game Boy Color games or something like that. Just like, like the Wario Land games, of course, I'm going to recommend, or, Super Mario Land 2, whatever. And I still got to give that shout out to God of Protectors. I know like there's that version on Switch, and that one's also really good. But the one on 3DS plays a little differently. Still pretty similar, but that's just a good time.
Yeah, that's. I ended up buying that one after buying the Switch one, and yeah, it's a solid game. If I can piggyback on your Game Boy stuff, I will say for anyone who wants to revisit or has never played the original Game Boy Pokemon games, the 3DS is the way to do that. It stinks now, man, because if you have those original cards, your batteries are more than likely expired, and you need to open it up and change the battery out. Which, depending on but like my gold cart that I have, it still works, but I got to change the battery in it, and I don't feel like doing that. There's also like you can go and buy those things, but Pokemon is like the number one most faked cartridge or like, rip off thing that I see passed around on eBay or resellers or any of that stuff. Like people just make these clone carts nonstop and rip people off. So not only do you end up paying a premium for a cart only, the chance of you getting a fake cart is exponentially higher because of the popularity of Pokemon. I think the virtual console releases, and it's such a shame that these are not on Switch yet, which hopefully that's changing. But the virtual console releases on 2DS, 3DS, super cool. And for at least right now, you can also tie them into Pokemon Bank. So you can play through your adventure on these, on the 3DS family, and then transfer your Pokemon to Pokemon Bank. And I think Pokemon Bank is free, or I don't remember. Look into that. Do your binging out there. But yeah, you can transfer your Pokemon there, and then bring them into the modern Pokemon games on Switch, which is kind of sick. Through Pokemon Home. But I think they work really well on 3DS.
Yeah,
Matt, did you have anything?
Nothing specific. I was actually, you kind of said it, but I'm going to kind of sadly go the opposite way. I was going to say any of that obscure, not like the core Nintendo stuff, because I do think that will eventually make its way to Switch on that program, but like that super obscure stuff on the Virtual Console, any of them that you probably aren't going to see on a service or for any console that's not yet on there. I mean, sure, there's rumors of Game Boy coming, but we don't know for sure, so... I would say just grab any of that obscure shit in the Virtual Console that is probably never going to make it to Switch on that Switch Online stuff.
Ooh. Yeah,
to that end.
That.
Oh yeah, what do you got?
It's kind of a pay-as-you-go thing, but Rusty's Real Deal Baseball, I think, is a fun one. Even 3D or not. I mean, I like it with the 3D. But I think that's just a fun little thing. It taps that side of Wii Sports that makes it a little charming, and it is very challenging. It can be very challenging and a little incentivizing in a way. But there's something about it. It has a good atmosphere for some reason. It works.
I downloaded it, but I haven't started it yet. I want to give it a shot.
Support that dog's family.
Yeah. And also, by the way, Nintendo Badge Arcade is on there, which is really neat. Yeah. Something's up with my save for that. Every time I try and launch it, it tells me like something's corrupted or whatever, and I can't. Mm-hmm. I never bother to troubleshoot it, but yeah, I can't play it anymore. I'm not sure what happened there. I will jump to the Wii U side of the fence because I don't know that anyone else will. The Wii U.
You traded in.
Has one of the most robust, Virtual Console wise, it is one of the most robust offerings.
Well, that was what I said. Just find that obscure shit that's not available on Switch.
Yeah, but that was the one where they have Game Boy Advance, they've got DS games on there, and they have Wii backwards compatibility. Well, there's native backwards compatibility, but there's some stuff on the eShop that you can buy. Stuff that again has gone up in price for physical copies. So the handful I can think of off the top of my head that I think are worth checking out. Sin and Punishment 2, Star Successor, $20 for that digital version. Pikmin 1 and 2 with the new play control where you can actually use the Wii remote to control the Pikmin, which it makes so much sense. I think that one's really, really good. And then the Metroid Prime trilogy is all there with the new play control as well, and it's $20, and yeah, if you try and track down a Wii disc version of that, you're gonna spend well over $100 for that. I know that is another one that's been perpetually rumored for Switch, and while I don't follow any of that stuff, I feel like the latest rumors on that are that it's not actually bringing the entire trilogy, it's just the first game. So this is the entire thing for $20 on your hot Wii U.
Yeah, so here, final verdict. Wii U, use it for your Virtual Console, and then buy a Switch so you can play the Wii U games.
I mean, honestly, the only things I would say you should buy on Wii U that you can't get on Switch: Nintendo Land, Mario Maker 1, which I was thinking a lot about this week. It stinks because they took the servers down, so you can't actually share your levels anymore, which was half the fun. but making the levels with the gamepad is so good.
Yeah.
I still think it's worth, like, if you have some friends over or something, just sit around and make levels for each other on the gamepad, because it's neat where you could do it, hide it from each other, and then put it up on the screen and play test. I think that's neat.
I know Captain Toad is on Switch, but didn't work like way better on Wii U.
Yeah, because you had there were a couple of those games that just made more sense in the tablet. Yeah, there's some good stuff, man. It's a shame that it's all going away. But we've reached the end of episode 453, but before we go, we must rank Perfect Dark against the rest of the games this season. Curious to see where this one falls, as I am every week to see where these things fall. Whoops, wrong spreadsheet.
Not everyone at one
you
time.
Want to follow along with?
Oh,
sorry.
No, I was gonna say not everyone at one time.
No, I was waiting on it to load. No, if you want to follow along with our list, you can do so. thefreecheese.com/thelist. This is our 18th game, man. I can't put, like, I know we just celebrated 15, a third of the way through, but like, this is like, hey, we're getting somewhere.
Yeah.
Okay, I've got my spot.
What is it?
Number 12. Below Valis 3, above Psyops.
You know what? I was looking right around there too.
I'm right around there too, but I had it below ESPN NFL football, but I think that just might be me knowing what ESPN brings to like a franchise mode and stuff.
I think the tricky thing is that we put Psyops above ESPN. Maybe we shouldn't have done that.
Well,
I don't think I did that.
Oh well.
That's one of y'all.
No, maybe Paul. I know.
I'm fine with that. 12. Multiplayer is fun.
Yeah, I think the campaign has a lot of potential. It's a little obtuse to work your way through, but honestly, like, when you play through those levels, complete the objectives, you get to know who Joanna is and Elvis and all of
and
those.
The story.
Like, you know, I know that I can't retain much of the story, but it always feels cool being in it, and like the world takes itself very seriously, which I appreciate. I think there's a lot of like nuance and change throughout the campaign that's like subtle and specific to each level. But again, all contributing to building the world of Perfect Dark. Yeah, I like, you know, I was a little worried about this one, excited to talk about it because this is one of those from my childhood that I put on the list. But I think it still holds up in ways. I think it's definitely dated in some, but I do think it's still a really, really strong game. I like it at 12. If you guys are okay at 12, I'm going to say 12.
Fun.
Any final words, thoughts on Perfect Dark as I update the list here?
I don't know. Try it if you're interested. I don't know. Just wait to 2027 when the new one comes out.
Mark, anything?
I guess if you are curious, I would definitely recommend the 360 version over the Nintendo 64 version.
And it's
but
on
you
Game
can,
Pass.
yeah, like you can,
too.
Yeah,
Game Pass console side. You can play on your Xbox One or Series S or X maybe.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's the best way to go and dip your toes in it, see if it's something you like. There's a little bit of a learning curve, but you just got to remember, came from a different time. It's just trying to preserve that for the most part, and be patient.
If you have that friend with an Xbox and you both have access to this game or whatever, like, someone's like not as in tune to gaming and they might not know Perfect Dark, but they know and loved and play GoldenEye or whatever, like jump into this one. Like that's your opportunity. Do a private match, put in some simulants, and like just have fun for half an hour, or just keep going with it if it's grabbing you. But like, I think like this is it's practically the same game, honestly. But like this is like for that friend that always talks about, oh man, GoldenEye was so cool, and they're not sure. Like this is the one to revisit. Just play Facility. Yeah. Put in the K7.
Because at least this one was remastered for an era.
Yeah, and just do a private match with the simulator. Like, that's how... Yeah.
Yeah, at that point, don't be patient. Let it rip.
Perfect Dark, another one in the books. I'm very excited for next week because I've never played this game before. And it's a Mark pick. I feel like we've had a very... like Matt stacked first half of the year with Mark and I peppered in, but we're starting to switch gears a bit here. So we've got Beautiful Joe coming up next week.
Yeah.
Very, very excited to see.
I haven't played this since I first played it, so I'm curious too.
Same with Joe. Yeah. Never played it. Always kind of wanted to. Always looked cool. So I'm excited for next week.
Yeah. I remember seeing it at Blockbuster and stuff, but it was just like this. Yeah, but it's that should be a good one. So come back next week and check out Beautiful Joe with us, where we talk about it and rank it, of course. Until then, thank you, Mark. Thank you, Matt. Thank you, listener, for listening. Bye.